Welcome. Try and talk a little louder today because people have been saying that the volume's a little low. So just take a moment, let people filter in. Feel the connection. All of us are here, consciously or not, like we always are. Take a moment to just be. And acknowledge the fact that we're all here and all connected. Today we're going to talk about responsibility. Responsibility. Almost a dirty word in common language. We say, oh, I've got so many responsibilities. Say, I'm crushed by my responsibilities. We see freedom as the absence of responsibilities. Oh, I'm going to go to Cancun. I'm going to just go somewhere. I'm going to the country. I'm going to go to the disco. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to go anywhere where I can forget my responsibilities and just have a good time. Oh, I can't think of a less good time, really. But absence of responsibilities, when we're talking that way, in normal language, we're saying all the things that we have to do, that we think we have to do. All the things that tie us down, that we think tie us down, that take away our freedom. Freedom being defined in that sense as not having any responsibility, not having to do anything. I can do what I want, meaning what I want is to not be responsible. What I want is to eat, drink, sex, sleep, leisure, entertain. Not that those things can't be quite entertaining, quite fun or distracting, and we do need some of those things at times. But responsibility, true freedom is responsibility. Well, what is responsibility, first of all? Responsibility is the ability to respond. So what is it that's not responsible? What's the opposite of responsible? Well, the two things that are the opposite of responsible are, one, reactivity. In other words, something happens to us. There's the responsibilities of the things that we have to do. And these are just what they are. These are part of freedom because if we respond properly to them, they don't control us. They are just part of what it is that it means to be human, to be an adult. Being an adult is to be free. Now, being an adult not in numbers doesn't mean when you're 18, 22, 25, 30, 40, 50, you become free because you've matured physically, because you can keep a job, because you can raise a kid as best as that's happening, because you can drive a car, own a car, pay your bills. This is not what makes one an adult. This is the physical part of being an adult, which is important, crucial. But to be an adult is to learn to be response-able, to be able to respond to a stimulus. What is a stimulus? Anything that happens to us. So you're in traffic and someone cuts you off. That's a stimulus. There's two ways to deal with that. One is reactivity. Reactivity will be all of the various anger, annoyance, impatience, whatever it is. Those will be the reactive. It's hard to find a word. The reactive, to not use the word respond or react. Those would be those would be reactive behaviors flowing from that I would have from that stimulus. A responsible behavior would be very, very different. Responsible, I may still get angry. The difference between the anger of a responsible person and a reactive person is blame. which is the second part. There's reactivity, and then there's blame. Responsibility, adulthood, which means maturity. Forget about years, forget about time, because there's almost no adults in the world around us. Almost none. People stop maturing between the ages of 7, 8, 9, and 13, 14, 15. They become better at, we become better at acting as though we're adults, at keeping the outside world, if we're functional that way. Some of us are not functional that way. If we're functional that way, we can keep the act and the physical part of our lives, paying the mortgage, keeping the job, those things, more and more together, so it appears like we're maturing. And we also get better at saying the things that sound wise because they work, and we keep staying with the things that seem to work, and we start to drop them. We get a little, sometimes, some of us get smarter, some of us get a little dumber in that way. That is not maturity. That is not adulthood, the way I'm defining it. The way it would be defined in a spiritual or emotional or psychological sense. Maturity is the ability to respond properly. Or if one responds improperly, to be conscious of it and to own it. Someone cuts me off in traffic. Someone is rude to me in a line. Someone calls me a name. Whatever it is, let's say that it's that kind of a stimulus, and it comes this way. It could even be directly personal. You are an idiot. Okay, well and good. Now, my response will be, my reactivity would be anger. Moment, please. My response would be, the reaction would be anger, and you're calling me an idiot? You're the idiot. Do you know who I am? You're such an ass. That's reactivity. That's where I'm having an anger response, and then I'm saying that the reason for my anger response, I'm having anger reaction, and my anger reaction, I put the responsibility for that on you, or on the stimulus, on the car that cut me off, on the person who's calling me the name. Okay, so to be responsible in that kind of a situation means either I've done enough work so that I don't even have a reactive anger. I just have an understanding that this person, this thing that's happening is part of the outside world that I really have no control over and that is not about me. Even my own thoughts aren't about me. That's a deeper situation. However, most likely for many, I'll tell you how it worked for me. I got serious about this whole path. Got serious about it. And so before I was identified as whatever I was identified, I was quite political. I guess I was identified as political and blah, blah, blah. Identified in various ways. And then I started becoming spiritual. Hilarious, really hilarious. You can see how funny it is, right? Identified as spiritual. It's like identified, which is anti-spiritual, as spiritual. Like, what are you? Anyway, so, which is the point of the story, which I'm getting to. So I started meditating with great discipline. All the habits had fallen away except for a couple of emotional habits that were fading. Great. I thought of myself as on the path. And so I was, indeed. But I was a very, very beginning on the path. So what would happen is, and where I noticed it was in traffic. I was driving, and I didn't grow up in a car culture. I grew up in a small city without a car. We had a car, the family had a car, but we didn't drive very much. I drove my bike, you could get around your bike, and I had a license, but we didn't drive much. And now I live in a big city, in a car culture, in the car all the time. So I've been here 30 years. So for the first 20 years, 18 years, complain. Then get spiritual, right? So I'm spiritual, the spiritual guy. And I'm in the car, and someone does something. By the way, you'll notice, when you get angry at someone that does something in the car, it's almost invariably true that you will do the same thing to someone else. You cut me off, how dare you? And then the next minute is, how come you won't let me in? Right? It's just completely self-centered, not mature. So then started to get spiritual, quotation marks. And the car would cut me off, or someone would do something, and I would be like, no, I'm spiritual. These things don't bother me. Well, that went on for about 5 or 6 years. And then I started realizing, and in those 5 or 6 years, all my meditation was looking for peace, right? A wonderful goal, looking for peace, joy, the depth, the quiet, the stillness, fantastic. But around the same time that I started realizing that in the meditation there was a tremendous amount of anxiety and fear and worry. And at that time I started working on and working with these negative feelings, realizing that they were there and they were real. And it wasn't just a matter of, oh, it's peace and wonderful and joy and clean and no. Well, yes. And there's a tremendous amount of blockage and leftover trauma and leftover things, energies from the past, and continuing because I'm not processing the new energies that are coming in, the new stimuluses properly. And so there was a tremendous thing. And that's when I started allowing what is to be in meditation, which means some meditation is peace and joy and contacting that, which is very uplifting, and it keeps the motivation, and and you get more of it, the peace and the just the not exactly above circumstances at that point. Above circumstances happens when the honesty happens. See, I wasn't being honest at that point, because around the time that I started to notice that in meditation there was a lot of things that needed to be processed. So the meditation became partly the opening and the joy and the surrender to the peace and the light and the love and all those things, compassion, kindness, and so forth. It also became opening to the trauma and the fear and the pain and the anxiety and the worry and all of those things, and processing those consciously. Unbelievably important. A friend of a friend, an older woman, described her meditation as cleaning. It's a nice way to put it, cleaning. So at that point, I started becoming honest about the fact that, no, it's not just roses and rainbows and joy. That is what the goal is, and that is what we are also contacting. But there's also a tremendous amount of dirt and grime and pain to be processed consciously so that more of this joy can be revealed. At that same time, I realized, I don't know if it was a realization like that or it was over time, but it was a short time that I came to realize that what would happen in the traffic situation is someone would cut me off or do something that before would piss me off, right? Piss me off, oh, make me reactive. How dare you, blah, 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 all this stuff like that. What was happening was, once I started identifying as spiritual, is the anger came, and I repressed it because I had an identification as a spiritual person. And spiritual people don't get upset at things like that. It was a lie. I was lying to myself. And when you lie, you suffer. You don't get through things you're lying about. They just get put into the lying bin, and they just feed the underground stuff, the denial and all those things that are running our lives unconsciously. So once I realized that was huge. What would happen is stimulus repression. So fast I didn't even see it. That's how lying to yourself works. One of the ways. Like that. No time to be honest with the fact that I was being reactive and repressing the reactivity under a fake idea of who I was. Then I stopped doing that. I started realizing, yes, anger, okay. So this is how we deal. To be responsible with the stimulus doesn't mean that we don't have a reaction, because let's face it, we are in stages of development and we are all reactive to some extent. The completely non-reactive, the completely responsible person is probably walking on water, and maybe we will walk on water one day. Right now, we're working towards that. So we do become less reactive with stillness, meditation, consciousness. With this work that we're doing here, we do become less reactive. It just happens. But To be honest, we are reactive. So how do we be responsible about our reactivity? Again, let's just define what reactivity is. Reactivity is a negative response to a stimulus. For example, someone says something rude, behaves badly in line, something like that. Why does this create a negative reaction in me? Because I am reactive. Period, the end. It's not about me. Someone can straight up say to me, they can make a racial slur, an ethnic slur, a slur about the way I look, the way I talk, the way I speak, and it's still not personal. That's this person's problem, not my problem, until I take it on. Which I do take it on because I'm identified with this race, creed, color, gender, all these different things. I think this is who I am, so I'm protecting it. Reactivity. I am reactive because I'm protecting a false identity. Okay. We talked about this a lot. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll wander into that a little bit later. But to stay with the point, reactivity is a negative reaction to a stimulus. It means I'm taking something personally that can't possibly be personal. How can it be personal? Who's the person? Well, see, it's hard to, we're going to wander into it now. Who's the person I'm trying to defend? It's a construct. It's an idea. If I don't identify primarily, if I identify primarily as something greater than this little self, if I identify as son of eternity, daughter of perfection, then what does it matter to a billion galaxies if an ant trips over another ant? These are very small things. Someone says something to me, is rude to me in line. How is this my problem? This person may have a problem. It becomes my problem because I'm protecting my false identity. So reactivity, we have responsibility on the one side and we have reactivity on the other side. Reactivity is the negative response to a stimulus, and we all have it because we're all protecting this false little identity. Okay. Bless. It's just honesty. We're not trying to blame or say anything's bad. We're just saying where we are. If we're honest about where we are, then that brings the possibility of light and progress and growing. So we have the reactivity. We're taking something personally. We're having a negative response to a stimulus. Now, how do we be responsible with that reactivity? Because we are reactive. We can't just say, oh, well, I won't be reactive because we're going to lie, like I did in the car for 5 years, meditating for 2 hours a day, 2-3 hours every day. Oh, I'm so spiritual. I don't have reaction repression. That's not honest. So we are reactive. How do we be responsible about our reactivity? What we do is we be conscious of it. Just like the story I'm telling you is to not deny the reactivity. First of all, to be honest enough to see that it is there. Number 2, I'm going to use the word responsible to say be responsible. Take responsibility for it. Own it. In other words, someone does something to me that's rude. It doesn't excuse the rudeness. We're not saying it's okay to be rude. That's a different point. That's that person's thing. What we're dealing with is my thing. You are walking. This is your entire universe, and everything that happens around you is filtered through your universe until you become the person that's walking on water. Then there's no separate self anymore. And we enter that. We do that. We find those moments. But so we take the reactivity, the negative, the jealousy, the anger, the fear, the worry, the anxiety, whatever it is that's provoked by the stimulus. I hear something on the news. Someone, let's just stay with it in line. I'm in line, someone does something rude. It is rude. I have an irritated, annoyed, little angry. To be responsible means, first of all, I see it. Second of all, I know it's me. Here's the anger. Here's the irritation. Here's the frustration and the judgment of that other person. That other person's just doing their thing. To be responsible means I take this reactivity as where I am now and then I and then I work with it. The first thing to work with is to be conscious of it, to be aware that it even happened. Because these negative reactions, they have a very strong ability to carry us away from the observer, from that which watches us, which we cultivate in meditation, cultivate in mindfulness, to watch ourselves, to watch myself be annoyed. I'm annoyed. Who's saying that? Something is watching the annoyance. But generally what we do is, until we learn this, we're annoyed. I'm annoyed, and all there is annoyance. I am annoyed. What am I? I am annoyed. Am I a being? No. Yeah, sure, we're talking about it. But in the moments of I am annoyed, I am angry, in that moment, that's an interesting statement. I am angry. Am I a human? Nope. Am I a being? Nope. Of course I am, now that we're not angry, but in the anger, especially rage, what am I? I am rageful. Well, gone. Everything is gone but rage. I have become... So what happens is, what we need to do is we need to maintain something that is not in the river of reactivity and emotion and thought. That's the observer. So to be aware, to be conscious, that's how we start to be responsible. To not be completely lost in the reaction, number one. Once we've got that, and that's a tremendous honesty, because what we do is we react and we blame, which means we project our inner state on someone else, which means how often do we say to ourselves, he pisses me off. You make me so, you irritate me. You just make me so jealous. You make me so, that situation makes me anxious. Something else makes me what I feel, what I am, because I don't even, let's have the observer that watches to see that that's not all I am, is the anxiety. Now let's take responsibility for it and say, whatever the situation is, the anxiety is mine. There's no way to avoid the fact that what happens here is mine. That's adulthood. That's responsibility. That's maturity. It's the road to peace. It's the road to joy. It's the road to freedom. Freedom is to be above circumstances, is to be fully able, to be able to respond properly. So you made me mad. First, I'm mad. I'm lost in madness. Second, I've taken the responsibility for my reactivity, and I've also put that on you. Where's my power? Where is my power? I'm now a victim of you. Of course I'm not a victim of you. There's no victim. What I am is, I am not doing the work. I am not taking responsibility. I am not being an adult. I am staying where I got stuck at 11 years of age and stopped maturing. Children are reactive. And that's the way children are supposed to be. They haven't learned to be responsible yet. Responsibility is something we learn. Children have wonderful things to teach us, but they haven't learned responsibility. And we stop learning responsibility at the point where we can pull it off and and fake it, and where we get traumatized and all these different things that stop us from maturing. Or we allow them to stop us from maturing. Maybe they stopped us when we were 14, but when we're 40, 35, 25, there's a point. There's no number, but as an adult, we become responsible for ourselves. It doesn't matter what happened to us. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be without compassion. Horrible things happen to people. It's not easy. But I am responsible for what I carry, no matter who did what to me in the past. Yes, extremely difficult if I went through a terrible childhood trauma, or something, I was in a concentration camp, someone raped me, whatever happened. Unbelievably difficult. Now, who carries it? I do. Who has the power to take responsibility for how it is now operating in me, and thereby work and do the work to slowly but surely transcend it? Or is my power gone and I'm just reactive and blaming? No power. No power. Power. Don't confuse strength. I'm going to use the word strength as something that means when you're angry sometimes, you can do like put your fist through a wall. That's a lot of strength. Power is the ability to transform and control one's life. Let's not confuse the cat that's backed into a corner that makes itself look big and goes like that. Makes itself big and makes a big noise like that to keep you away, to keep you afraid. That cat is terrified. When the tiger jumps on you, you don't know it's on you till its claws are in your neck, because that animal is powerful. No noise. Very quietly, it moves through life in power. The fearful little creature makes a lot of noise, or it plays dead, right? Those are the two strategies. The big bluff, or the playing dead and hope that they leave you alone. Wow. So, to take responsibility means for reactivity. Take responsibility. To be responsible for reactivity means see it, be honest about it and see it. And then then we work with it. The way that we're going to work in meditation a little bit, which is we acknowledge and we're honest and we see it. We surrender to it. We see that this is a reaction that we have in these situations. And we take the responsibility of understanding that it is this that is reacting and suffering, no matter what that is doing to me. It is this that is... Now, we're not talking about being held down and beaten up. We're talking about being insulted. We're talking about an anxious situation, worry and fear. We're talking about all the things, the emotions and the spiritual terror that we live in. That's what we're talking about. And the psychological, emotional bio loop that has us just afraid, worried, anxious, just jealous, envious, just completely uncomfortable all the time. That's what we're talking about. So we acknowledge it, we see it, we're honest about it, and then we spend time in stillness, letting the roots of that be pulled up by the surrender to the fact that it's there. We don't fight it. We don't fight it. We don't explain it. We don't lie about it. We don't push it down. We just allow it to be. If we can be grateful for those feelings, it's a bonus. And then we ask for help if necessary. Now, responsibility, the ability to respond properly. Everything that happens through this filter. Through this filter. There is a greater perception. But all the things we're talking about are filtered through the self, the person, the personality. And this is what we're trying to dissolve, except for when it's necessary. There will be a personality there. You will be the quirkiest, most interesting person in the world. Don't worry about it. Everybody is extremely unique when you get close to them. You get far away, look at a crowd of 10,000 people. Every single one of them is exactly the same. Get up close to them and us, and we are unbelievably different. And you don't need to hold on to anything or maintain anything or project anything to be that way. You just will be that way. You just will be that way. Get close enough to a bunch of ants. Get real close. You'll be like, whoa, they're really different. So, to be responsible, there's this filter through which everything comes and through which all is interpreted and experienced. And I either am reactive or in denial. I'm either playing dead or I'm puffing myself up or I'm pretending it's not happening or I'm reactive or whatever it is, or I am response-able. I am able to respond. Now, I am able to respond to everything. Let's not confuse responsibility. There are right now billions of human beings and probably hundreds of billions of animals under our control, under human control, that are suffering unspeakably right now. Am I responsible for that in the sense that I need to do something to fix that? Well, yes and no. To the extent I am able to respond with compassion and kindness and heal these things, yes, I am that kind of responsible for everything. But let's face it, this is one very limited physical entity. Even all of us together, there's 10 of us together now, 1,000 of us together, very powerful. Of course, 1,000 is way more than 1 + 1 + 1 to 1,000. It's synergistic. 1 + 1. Take a guitar, put a voice on it, put a bass underneath that, put drums underneath that. 4 people. You get way more than 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. You get the synergy. You get this unbelievable music. It's true with everything. Even so, we are very limited, and that's just a fact on the physical level. Then again, let's not say we're limited so we can't. We are unlimited in terms of intent and potential. But in fact, I cannot, right now, in this present state of consciousness and being and power, I cannot heal all the suffering of the billion human beings and probably a couple more billion that are very close to that kind of suffering, and the billions and billions of animals, and the earth herself and the plants. I can't. So my ability to respond properly to that is about doing the best I can with compassion, with the resources and the energy that I have. What I'm talking about when I say responsibility is limitless, it should be considered limitless in terms of potential on that level, but it is limited, in fact. But unlimited responsibility means all of the stimulus that comes in, I have unlimited responsibility for how what is the word that I can use? Respond, react. Those are the 2 words. For what happens here as a consequence of the stimulus, of all of the information, all of the behaviors, all of the feelings, the air I breathe, the water I drink. Now, food. If we have food, clothing, shelter, free time, security, and company, if we have those things, the necessities of life, then responsibility. What do we put in our bodies, for example? Food and water. How about the relationships we have? How about the people we allow and the way we allow them to treat us, and the way we respond or react as a consequence of the way they treat us? All of the things that come in here, everything I am responsible for, not the fact that they're coming in, because I can't control what someone does to me, what someone does, not to me, what someone does, whether it seems like it's to me or not. What someone does in the line in front of me is not under my control. Someone behaves rudely, not in my control. What I am responsible for without limit is what happens here as a consequence of those stimuluses, as a consequence of what comes in. Now, I'm either powerless. Now again, the cat, the creature that acts big or that plays dead. You son of a... Right? I can do that. You did this to me. I am absolutely powerless in that situation. What do we do? How many car accidents? How many abuses? How many losses of relationship? How much damage do we do through anger, for example? How much damage do we do? First to ourselves, and then, of course, tremendous to other people. We can do more damage to other people sometimes. Children, weaker people, we can do more damage to them in that situation. But finally, to ourselves, first and foremost. How much damage do we do? Is damage power? Or is it just a display of strength, like punching a hole in a wall? It's weakness masquerading as strength. Responsibility is power. It's the ability to control, to flow with, to be able to respond properly, to have this inner world be mine and not at the mercy and the consequence of whoever and whatever happens around me, to be above circumstance. So responsibility is freedom I want to be free. I don't want to be a slave to how someone else drives, how someone else speaks, how someone else acts, how someone else walks, talks, looks at me, how the weather is, how the news is, how the economy is, how everything is. Yes, these things affect me. I don't want to be a slave to them. I want to be above it. I want to have this be under my jurisdiction. This is my power. This is my world. And I want the freedom that comes from being able to respond properly to it. So reactive, we learn to be responsible for reactivity, which will lessen the reactivity, guaranteed. Take responsibility for reactivity, as we spoke about before, and I promise you, the reactivity will lower. It just will. And the responsibility will grow, and you'll be like, wow, responsibility is dynamite. So responsibility is freedom. The freedom to respond properly. And this is what it is to be an adult. To be an adult, to be mature, to be independent. To take responsibility for what's happening here. And what's happening here will dictate what I put out into the world. It would also dictate how I see the world. Doesn't mean the world is going to all treat me nice all the time. I'm walking on water. I'm fully realized. I'm fully responsible. They still might nail me to a cross. People do what they do. So, but to be responsible, to have this here, the more this is under the sway of responsibility, the ability to respond properly, to take this as what it is that's mine. This is under my power, and I will work with it and be conscious and surrendered and grow and allow it to be grateful for the difficulties and have this grow in terms of its power. What will happen naturally, I will become a kinder person, a more compassionate person. What it is that I will radiate in terms of who I am, what it is that I am vibrating, what it is I am giving to the world, to my wife, my husband, my child, my dog, the plants, the people I walk down the street with. When one is in a state of full responsibility, and you could just call it grace, you could call it light, you could call it love, full responsibility, you'll hold the door for someone at the bank, just automatically, not because you're looking for credit, and you'll meet the eye of the guy with the tattoos up his neck and up the side of his face like this. This is a man who you can see has had a hard time. You can see it in his eyes, and he'll look you in the eyes, and he'll say thank you. And it's not the thank you that makes your heart go like this and open. What it is you realize that you touched this person and he touched you. You had this communication with this being who doesn't get that very often, if ever. Maybe it's the only time. Maybe it's one of 5 times. The kid's 23. How many times has he had that in his life? And that's what it is. That's what happens in a state of grace, in a state of responsibility. You radiate this energy that nurtures, and you don't know where that seed lands. And even if it doesn't land anywhere, it's still a scattering of beautiful seeds of light. And some of them will land and some of them won't. Again, that's not your ability to control. You are not able to control what happens around you, but you are able to respond to what happens around you completely. Not now, we're not. But that's why we're talking about it. Because if we were able to now, what's to talk about? We don't need to talk. We've got it already. We're talking and thinking and feeling, and we're going to meditate because what we do is grow into these beings. Why? First and foremost, the most selfish thing in the world is I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. I do not want to be tortured by myself or by anyone else. And this form of selfishness, which is a form of self-transcendence, a growing into a larger self, is the most selfless thing that one can do. You can do service for others. That's incredibly selfless. And that is a path to eroding this little self. The erosion of the little self, of this little self-identification, the growing, that is in the service of humanity, life, earth, and eternity. Yeah, that's what it is. So it's selfish, but it's not selfish at all. It's just necessary. So we want to be responsible, able to respond to all the things that happen in and around us. In and around us. I am responsible for my thoughts. Doesn't mean I put them there. 99.9% of my thoughts are conditioned stupidity from other people's conditioned stupidity. Just everybody's just vomiting garbage that they absorbed from other people's vomited garbage for generations and generations and generations and generations. This is not original thinking. Original thinking comes from creativity. Creativity comes from absolute openness, and you can't take credit for creativity. It just is. The unblocked human being is creative by definition because it's simply a channel for something much larger. And we're all here to be creative, but we're blocked. So to be responsible, to be free, to seek the joy that comes from taking control slowly of how it is, the response, where does the response happen? Or the reaction? Or the blame? It all happens here. It all happens right there. It happens in this self-contained universal unit, self-contained unit that is its own universe. That is where the response happens, the reaction happens, the blame happens, the love happens, the hate happens, the fear, the joy, it all happens there. So what we are doing, if we are reactive without being responsible, then we're just lost. Reactivity is painful. A negative emotion is painful. That's why we call it negative, because we don't like it. Something about us likes it, is addicted to it, because we keep going there. But finally, that which is great and seeking and is looking for eternal joy and beauty and truth, that doesn't like it at all. That is basically underneath the reactivity. Reactivity hurts. To be responsible for reactivity means, as we spoke about before, to start working with it and transmuting it, transforming it slowly so that it becomes less reactive and more responsible. Blame is taking reactivity and projecting it on someone else or on a situation out there. Response is understanding that it's all happening here. If it's reactive, then we're lost. If it's reactive without responsibility, we're lost. If it's blame, it's projected out. There's nothing but weakness. Where is the place for me to interact with this that's happening here as a conscious, voluntary being who can make it better, who can mature? Mature just means grow into responsibility, grow into that which can be more joyful, can be more peaceful, more love, more in a state of love. So response is here. Reactivity is here, but it's not acknowledged as here because we're either lost in it when we're unconscious or we're projecting outward in blame, or both, usually both. So response, and then able to respond properly. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're working on. That's what we need. That's what will free us. Now, the diamond heart. The diamond, the hardest material that we know of. It is carbon, which is the same thing that your body is basically made of. Carbon-based. All life on Earth is carbon-based. It gets squished really hard. Pressure and fire. The pressure and fire. Oh, all the stress that we go through, and either it crushes us and burns us and we're just dust, or it turns us into this clear refraction of light. And at the center of that is the heart. And the heart is where all the qualities, and we cut, as humans, we cut diamonds into facets. We put different faces on it so that it reflects the light in certain ways. And each facet of the diamond is a quality in the image that we're using here, in the diamond heart that we're all joining, that we're working on together here. And one of the faces is responsibility. Another of the faces is service. Another of the faces is compassion. Another of the faces is love. All these different angles that are cut into it. Go through any angle, you will reach the heart. And at the heart, think of all the faces collapsing. The faces collapsing, 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 till they reach the heart. At the heart, we go in through the window, through the face of responsibility. And all the other qualities, as we become more able to respond, all the other qualities of the diamond get closer and closer until in the heart they meet. And we have the joy and the compassion and the automatic service and the beauty and the creativity and the absolute honesty and sincerity and authenticity and kindness, and all of these qualities meet. Responsibility is a way in, and it's really almost one of the ones that can't be, it has to be part of any other face. All of the faces have to go together to some extent, but someone could go straight through love. I guess they wouldn't need, the responsibility would come automatically. You could go straight through service and the responsibility will come automatically. But responsibility is so central. It's so central because we've been taught in this culture, in this world that we live in, we've been taught to be irresponsible. The only kind of responsibility that we learn is economic, physical responsibility, to clothe ourselves, to keep a job, to buy stuff. That's how the responsibility, we learn we learn to be reactive. We learn not to take responsibility for our emotions, for our spiritual state, for our psychological state. No. You make me mad. That situation is making me worried. I hate this. That's awful. You're this. Something like all these projections, blames, and reactions. That's what we are taught. And we stop maturing very, very, very young. Look at these people, all these mature people all around us. Subject them to stress. Live with them. And you'll see. They're 12 years old. They're 15 years old. They're 9 years old. They're reactive. Stress. Subject them to stress or see them day to day to day to day when the act can't be kept up anymore, or when the stress pulls them out of the act. And all of a sudden you've got a whining 13-year-old. Well, whining 9-year-old. Complaining, whining, angry, petulant. This culture teaches us that. It keeps us powerless. It keeps us working without rebelling. It keeps us buying without thinking. So, we've talked about responsibility, what it is, about the fact that it is power, about the fact that it is freedom. We all yearn to be free. We yearn to be free. We want to be free. Of what? Well, there's a lot of outside things that we want to be free of, meaning demands that are not reasonable. It's not fair the way we're treated by our employers, by people that do that. But that's taking us out of our power. So we can't really be free. We will try to be free from external. We will try to create better relationships. The relationships that don't serve our higher selves will automatically drop off as we do this kind of work. We should find the best work that we can. That all these things, these external things, we work with them as best we can. But what we really seek to be free from as adults is ourselves. Our reactivities, our pettiness. We are so petty. We are so small. My God, we're so small. Everybody that's watching here now, I'm going to assume, pretty much, we're all on electronic devices together. And we have free time. I know it's Corona time. Some of us are having hard times. Yes, we are. We're all having hard times. But the other day, I was standing outside waiting for something, and it was raining. And the person who was going to give me something, I had the dog outside. So I didn't want to bring the wet dog inside. And so she's microwaving something that I could have heated at my house. I got very annoyed. Now, that's pretty small. That's pretty small. That's reactive on my part. I'm standing in the rain and I'm getting wet waiting for food. I'm going to go to my house. I'm going to get in my car. I mean, what's the problem? Like, I'm so small and petty in that moment that I'm like, oh, I'm standing in the rain. I don't want to stand in the rain and wait for food. Come on now. Come on. Wake up. Wake up. And at least I was conscious of the fact. And I worked with it. And I am working with it now. Not because I'm great, but because I don't want to suffer anymore. Petty, small. We get annoyed about nothing all the time. We get angry about nothing all the time. We take everything personally. This is powerlessness. This is adolescence or childhood. And we are not children anymore. We are adults. Okay. So to be responsible, if you're in a safe place, just maybe close our eyes. And we're not going to relax yet. First thing we're going to do is we're going to notice where the tension is in our body. There is tension in your body. Be aware of it. Find it. Find that tension in your body. It's more than one place. Now, let's see if we can find something. If something doesn't automatically come to mind, it will as soon as these words come up. Something will leap to your mind pretty quickly. Think about something that annoys you or bothers you or makes you angry. See, makes you angry. Think about something that has created a negative response, a negative reaction in you. You felt mad, you felt angry or irritated in the last day or two, something quite recent. Okay, you got that? Do you have that thing that happened to you? Your eyes are closed. You feel tension in your body. See where that thought, see if you can find that thought in your body. If you can find the place where that thought connects to your body. That would be useful, but it's not necessary. Now you see that thought, what is it? Something irritated you or made you mad or annoyed you. What's the story? We're just going to be quiet for like 30 seconds and we're going to tell ourselves the story of what happened and why we're annoyed, why we're angry, why we're irritated. Take 30 seconds, 40 seconds, feel the feeling in your body if you can. Watch the thoughts. Think about what's happening. Why were you annoyed? Why were you angry? Why were you irritated? What's the story? Okay? So we've had that experience. If we're honest about it, what happened was the story was someone else did something to me or some other source, something outside of me did something, or it could be something inside me did something and it made me feel a certain way. See the language? Even the way we speak, it made me feel something. She made me feel something. He made me feel something. Made me feel something. No power. I am at the mercy of what he, she, it made me feel. Okay, that's the story. That's the story. Okay. Now let's take, there's a box by our feet. And this box says soon on it. Okay, it says soon. It doesn't say later, it says soon. Take that event, the thing you were just thinking about, take it with your hands very gently. Very gently. Just pull it very gently out of your feeling, out of your mind, and put it in the box called soon. We're going to come back to you soon. Relax, little thought, little feeling, little reaction, little experience. Relax. We're coming back to you. Just sit there in the box called soon. Now we just breathe 3 times, slowly through our nose in and more slowly out through our mouth. Each time we breathe out, we release everything. Now we're not thinking about anything in specific. If a thought or a feeling comes there's 2 boxes at our feet. One says soon and one says later. We've put this one experience in the soon box. If it comes back while we're breathing, until we tell it to come back, we put it gently back in the soon box. Any other thoughts or feelings that come up, we take them gently and put them in the later box. while we're breathing, while we're creating space, which we're going to do for a few minutes. So we just take these thoughts and gently put them in the later box, the feelings later box. The 3 deep breaths. Each time we go out, we're releasing more and more of that which it is that makes us feel tense and anxious and nervous day to day. So in, out through the mouth, slow, releasing, relaxing. 2. And the third one. Releasing and relaxing everything. Any thoughts and feelings gently into the later box. Now focus on your heart, the center of your chest, the spiritual heart. Your whole chest is fine. Whole chest, center of the chest, the chest. Focus on the chest. And as you breathe, feel a light coming in through the crown of your head, the middle of the top of your head. You can just tap it gently if you need to, just to feel it, or you don't have to. There's a light flowing in a big tube of light, like 3-4 inches in diameter, 4 inches in diameter, 6, 7, 8 centimeters in diameter, just filling in the top of your head, going through your head, through your neck, and into your heart. And in your heart, it swirls around. It's a light. It's a beautiful, nurturing, peaceful energy, just flowing from that which is infinite. I can use the word God. The people don't like the word God. You can use the word love. If you don't like the word love, you can use the word universe. You can use no word. There is a flowing energy coming in through the crown of your head, going through your face and through your head, through your neck, into your chest, into your heart, and swirling around and around and around your chest, and expanding from there to fill your whole body. Let it go through your body, out your perineum, which is between your genitals and your anus, straight through there into the earth. There's a tube of light going from the top of your head into your chest, into your heart, the center of your chest and your chest, swirling around, filling your body, and continuing as a tube through the center, through your stomach, through your solar plexus, your stomach, your groin, and out the bottom of your perineum, out there into the earth. So now you've got this flowing energy. You're connected to the earth. You're connected to the universe, and it's all kind of exploding in your heart. Now let it just fill the egg around you. Call it the aura, but it's just an egg. There's an egg around you. All the energy is in the heart. It's coming from everywhere. It's going to everywhere, but it's primarily filling this egg that's around you. About 1 meter, 3 feet around you, all around you, 4 feet all around you, 5 feet, 2 meters. This big ball of energy. There's the life inside of you, which is this light exploding from your heart. It's filling the egg. And now it can just fill the universe. It can just fill. We've done this so many times. Just let it go wherever it needs to go. It is boundless. But this time we don't need to lose the self. We can keep the center, which is the heart. Now, can you actually feel this voice coming from your being? Because I can sure feel every single being that's part of this, and every other being, just part of this experience. This voice has nothing to do with anyone personally. None of the ears that are listening have anything to do with anything personal. There's just open experience. Open experience. And there's a center of explosive but very calm light in the center of the chest. And then there's just experience, awareness, openness, openness, space, space, space. Let's bring this awareness back to the egg. Back to the body. And we're connected by roots now. Feel the roots from the bottom of your legs, your feet, your perineum, the bottom of everything that's facing the earth, that's closest to the earth, that's touching the lowest part. Right now I'm sitting on a pillow. So my knees, the bottom of my legs and my butt, my ass, my sit bones, those things are connected with this beautiful green light flowing roots to the earth. And there's this magnificent beam of light coming through your head, into your heart, flowing, and we're connected. We are now in the body, but the body is a light body with this amazing connection to the earth, and an amazing flow from the sky, swirling around the heart. Now, reach into your box called Soon, and take your experience with your hands and put it into your heart. Put it right in there. Put it right in there. Is it important? Is it big? Is it what it was when you first felt it? Is it what it was when you experienced it a day and a half ago, 3 hours ago, whenever your experience happened? Is it what it was when you experienced it 8 minutes ago, 12 minutes ago, when we talked about it, and we felt it in our bodies, and we felt it, and we had the experience, the feeling, the memory, and now we're remembering it in a different way? Is it personal? Is it a big deal anymore? Or is it just a small part of the light, almost insignificant? Perhaps it doesn't even exist anymore as an independent event. Perhaps it's not even negative anymore. Perhaps it's just like the air you're breathing. It's just one more thing. Can you feel that? It's just one more thing. It's not an irritation. It's not personal. It matters in such a small way that it doesn't matter. Okay. Let's come back to the body, which means the skin and what's inside the skin and the feeling of life in there and the light that's in there, which is the life, that is the light. Sometimes it helps to pat yourself down gently, parts of your body, to feel what's happening. You can open your eyes if you want or keep them closed. But come back to the body. You are now in the body. You are an individual physical being on planet Earth, which is also an individuated being. It's not the moon. It's not Sirius. It's not Omega 347. It's not Saturn. It's the Earth. I am this experience. Okay. So, in the body, connected to the earth is our home. The center of your being is pulled directly to the center of the earth, which is why we roll downhill and why we struggle uphill, because the center of you seeks the center of the earth. And the downhill is closer to the center than the top of the mountain. Things roll from the top of the mountain to the valley because the top of the mountain is further from the center of the earth than is the bottom of the valley. And here we are, embodied for a reason. We are embodied to learn to become responsible. To be responsible is to be independent. If I am reactive and blaming, I am not independent. I am dependent on circumstances. Oh, she said the nicest thing about me. I'm so happy. Oh, he said something so mean about me. I'm so miserable. Dependent. Children are dependent. Adults are independent. Time to grow up. It's not pleasant to be a child in an adult body. It is painful. It is weak. It is fearful. It is terrifying. It is so unpleasant. No matter how much pleasure we can get and how much comfort we seek, we cannot avoid the fact that we suffer tremendously when we are not independent, when we are not response-able. So now we've just seen how the same stimulus, the experience that we took, we picked an experience that annoyed us, for example, and we felt it, and we're like, ooh, yeah, feel it and think about it, and here's the story, and he did this, and well, I really should have something or other, and we went through that. Then we broadened our experience of self to this magnificent being that included, thank you, thank you, moment of gratitude. Thank you. Thank you. We broadened our experience to this magnificent, inclusive being, all of us consciously, all of everything, conscious or not. And then we came back to the experience that made us feel this anxiety so personally, and we saw how it was nothing or almost nothing. This shows us how we are able to respond to things or able to have things affect us, the same thing affect us in different ways. Why? When someone does something, right now, someone's doing something to someone that is unspeakable, and yet, yeah, if they do it to me, it's horrible. If it's done over there, it's not horrible because I'm taking it personally. So whatever it is that happens in this personal experience to this being, I can process in any number of ways. And we can see how the same event can be processed. It's happening to someone else. Why is that less effective, affecting me less? So what we do is we take the experience, we've seen how the experience can be handled and processed very, very, almost completely differently, almost opposite. One is very personal and very affects us very much, and we have reactivity, and we've probably put the responsibility, meaning blame, on someone else. And the other one is we've found a larger self, and we found that it's not that important. It's not that big a deal. Now, in the day-to-day, here's what we do to be responsible with reactivity. I am reactive. Say that to yourself. I am reactive. Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't lie. That's how adults maintain immaturity, by lying. Tell the truth. The truth is, I am reactive. Okay, if the truth is that I am reactive, when I'm reactive, if it's at all possible, let me maintain my consciousness, which means the reactivity. Anger is a good example because anger takes us really out of our, but they all do. Jealousy, fear, worry, anxiety, they take us over. I am angry. I am angry. That's what I am, is angry. There is nothing else. Let us take something and watch the anger. The river of anger is not who I am. It is what I am experiencing. I am what I am. I am what I just experienced with you, which is you is who I am. You is I, or we am, okay? That is who we are in the broadest identification of responsibility and truth and freedom and joy and love. I am. So the anger is passing through this aspect of being. And I am watching it with honesty. That means I don't identify with it. I am not angry. There is anger. Step one. Step two, when it's safe and there's time, which is most of the time, you can do it when you're driving. You don't close your eyes. You just acknowledge it. You say, there it is. And then you watch it. You stay with it. Surrender to it, which means be with it. Don't deny it. Don't explain it. Don't push it. Don't project it onto someone else. Don't fear it. Don't give a secondary reaction. Oh, I'm so stupid that I'm angry. Oh, I'm spiritual. That's a secondary reaction. Just there is anger. Oh, that's what it feels like. That's the thoughts that come up. Okay, I'm not explaining it. I'm not denying it. I'm not lying about it. I'm not pushing it down. I'm not projecting it. I'm not doing anything with it, but being with it. First, I'm honest and I see it and I acknowledge it and I know that it's not me. It is what I'm experiencing. There is something that I am that is not the experience. Surrender. Allow it to be without fighting it, without explaining it. No secondary reaction. If possible, be grateful for it. Grateful for the fact that I can see it and I can surrender to it. And that this is my higher self. Once I've seen it, honestly, and surrendered to it, this is my higher self working to transmute that reactivity into responsibility. So to be grateful. If you can't be grateful, be honest. Don't fake it. Oh, I'm so thankful. That's a lie, unless you feel it, unless it's real. If you can feel it and it's real, great. If you can't, great also. It's not bad or good. It's just useful if you can. And 4, ask for help, especially when it becomes overwhelming. And this is how we transmute reactivity into responsibility. Thank you. See you Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Thank you.